I thank you for coming. I'm Alyssa DeFilippo, Program Manager of Connections California. Connections California is an online resource and information hub servicing the needs of families in transition to adulthood with their youth and also those who are dealing with adult services. The transition to college for students with learning differences is our topic today, and I'd like to introduce our presenters. We have Helen Amick, who is a longtime volunteer working with students with learning differences. Over the past several years, she has shifted her attention to working with students on their journey to college, and she's a recent graduate of the UC Irvine Independent Educational Consultant Certificate Program. Helen works with students individually and as a volunteer with the Foundation for College Education, College Access and Success Program. She's a mother of 3 young adults, the youngest of whom is applying to college this fall. And Sandra Fischler is joining us. She's the director of the Landmark College Success Center in San Mateo, California. The Success Center provides neurodiverse teens, young adults, and adults with access to resources and support for success in their academic and social skills development journey, including executive function training and college learning strategies. Also from Landmark is Sharon Farrell. She's the assistant director of West Coast Admissions. And Landmark College, which is located in Vermont, is a community designed exclusively for students who learn differently, including students with learning disability, ADHD, autism, or executive function challenges. And last, but certainly not least, we have Alexander Morris Wood from Beacon College, where he is the Vice President, Division of Program Development and Global Partnerships, overseeing the Center for College Readiness, Transition Counseling, pre-college programs, admissions, non-traditional programs, and outreach. Phew. Beacon is also designed exclusively for students with learning differences, and Alex has created and implemented, Alex, why did you create and implement?
You've said enough. Don't worry about it. It's great to be here.
It's the country's first virtual transition to college program for students with learning and attention differences. Okay, with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and turn it over to Helen. Thank you.
Welcome, and thank you for joining us today for our conversation. I'm going to kick off the conversation with a very brief discussion about how to find the right fit college for your student with learning differences. I'm going to give you a quick overview about the 6 topics that I'm going to cover before I jump in. Briefly, we're going to start with an overview of today's college landscape. Then I will go over various elements of fit before transitioning to differences in support and accommodations between high school and college. We'll talk about the range of supports available in college and how students can supplement these supports outside of college. Finally, I'll talk about how to research colleges before wrapping it up. There's a lot of noise regarding college in the news and in the community. This can be quite intimidating. One can hear that colleges are very hard to get into, or that one needs to be a top student with straight A's, top test scores, and amazing extracurriculars. And you might think, that's not my kiddo. My student's smart, but these standards, is my student even ready for college? It's important to put the college landscape in context. There's over 4,000 2- and 4-year colleges and universities in the United States. I'm going to use the word college and university interchangeably to refer to institutions of higher education, just as an aside there. Just looking at the universe of 4-year schools, it's important to keep in mind that the majority of schools admit the majority of applicants. In fact, of the roughly 2,500 4-year colleges out there, only about 115 have a less than 30% admit rate. In California, we have an amazing 3-tier public higher education system to meet the various needs of our students. We have the 9 UCs. We have 23 Cal State universities that are spread across the state. And then we have more than 100 community colleges that are well suited for kids who want to stay closer to home. There are very explicit pathways dedicated to helping students navigate the transition from community college to a UC, a CSU, or even a private institution for those who want to start at a community college. So, how does one sort through these options to build a college list? It's important to focus holistically on the student's needs and not just on their learning differences. Each student will have their own priorities. I think academic interests are a good starting point. What does your student want to study? If a college doesn't have the program of study that your student is interested in, then that likely isn't going to be a good fit. There could be other academic considerations, such as what's their preferred instructional style or class size. Another important consideration is what are the graduation requirements? How flexible is the curriculum? Campus environment and geography are very important considerations for some families. How far away is the institution from your home? What's the weather? How big is the campus? Campus culture. Will your student fit in? Are they going to find their people? Extracurriculars are also another important consideration. Research has shown that college engagement is an important predictor of student success. So what are the activities on campus that your student will want to participate in? Schools offer many academic supports to all students, such as peer tutoring, math or writing centers, and academic advising, as well as accommodations and supports specifically for students with learning differences through the office, accessibility, or disability services. Other supports to consider are non-academic, such as health and mental health services and career services. Cost for most families is an important consideration and something it is important to discuss up front. All schools post their cost of attendance online, along with a net price calculator. A net price calculator is a tool which helps families estimate the expected out-of-pocket expense after taking into consideration need-based and non-need-based aid. In fact, most schools offer some combination of merit and need-based aid. And in some cases, this aid is very generous. So it's important not to be scared off by the sticker price of a college right off the bat. It's easy to find online the admissions rate and profile of the prior year's admitting class. You'll want to consider whether your student fits within this profile and can meet school's stated admissions requirements. Sorry. We've talked about the characteristics of fit that are important to all students in college. Now I want to talk more specifically about supports for students with learning differences. There's a big difference between high school and college when it comes to supporting students with learning differences. First and foremost is the law covering students with disabilities. In K through 12, schools were governed by the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA. But in college, they're governed by the ADA and Section 504, Subpart E of the Rehabilitation Act. This difference is important because the legislation is fundamentally different. ADA is a civil rights law, not an education law. Civil rights laws protect against discrimination in all aspects of life, not just education. So what does this mean? In high school, the goal of the legislation is to foster success for the student, whereas in college, the goal shifts to creating access. Colleges are required to ensure that the student can access the curriculum, the campus, and campus activities. They are not required to ensure the student's success in the classroom. So what does that mean in terms of support? Colleges receiving federal aid, and that's most of them, are required to provide the minimum accommodations needed to ensure a student can access the curriculum, but they do not need to modify the curriculum or do anything that fundamentally alters their program. Beyond basic accommodations, it's up to the college's discretion to decide what level of support they want to provide and how they want to provide it. Another key difference is that it is up to the student to seek out the accommodations by registering with the Disability or Accessibility Services Office, providing the necessary documentation, and then, once approved, communicate with their professors about their accommodations and then actually use their accommodations. This process must be student-driven, and it's not going to happen if the student doesn't take the initiative. In college, parents take a backseat. In fact, due to privacy laws, students must sign a waiver before the school can even engage with the parents. This may be a big change for parents who are used to being involved. So what does support look like in college? Colleges all have a general menu of support for all students. We've talked about that previously. However, in addition, the Office of Accessibility or Disability Services provides students with learning difference an array of other supports, ranging from basic accommodations to highly structured support from a learning specialist. You may have heard that there are 3 basic models of support in college: basic, augmented, or structured support programs. However, these are really general descriptions. For example, there's no singular description of what a school will provide within a given category. Institutions fall somewhere along a continuum of low to high support, but what specifically looks like can vary significantly from one school to another. At one end of the continuum, you have schools providing the minimum accommodations, such as extended time, note-taking support, and alternate testing sites. At the other end, you have schools offering additional structured services, such as regularly scheduled sessions with a learning specialist. Schools in the middle provide more than the basic accommodations, perhaps a reduced course load or course substitutions, and may also offer other supports, such as skill-building workshops, executive functioning coaching, or a pre-orientation program. But the support is not scheduled, may be limited in terms of usage, and is up to the student to seek out help when needed. Structured support programs offer a higher level of support, such as regularly scheduled sessions with a learning specialist. Students must sign up for this program in advance and commit to regular attendance. There is often a fee and/or an application required for this program. Schools exclusively for students with learning differences and ADHD, of which there are 2 represented today, offer the highest level of support for their students, and skill building is fundamental to the program. Many students choose to look for supports outside of school, either because the school does not provide what they need or they have found a more effective way to get the support that they need. Remember, support is only one aspect of fit. If a student finds a school that is otherwise a great fit, they may have to put together their own support plan. To minimize transitions, some students choose to keep the tutors or coaches they have used in high school. Others may choose to work with a tutor, coach, or therapist near campus or virtually to meet their specific needs. COVID really opened up the door to virtual opportunities. In the past, it may have been difficult to find an outside tutor or coach, but now there are so many options when these can be resourced nationally. There are structured residential programs for students not ready to live and attend college independently. In this scenario, students live together in an off-campus residence and take classes at a nearby school, either as a matriculated or non-matriculated student. The program provides additional support, such as coaches and tutors, social supports, and medication management, for example. A postgraduate year at a boarding school or a gap year could be another option for students who need a little bit more time to mature or build skills. And finally, for some, community college is a good option as a starting point and a way to start college before transitioning to a 4-year program. So how do students learn about colleges? Students should take advantage of in-person and virtual opportunities that are provided by schools. As a consequence of COVID, colleges have greatly expanded their virtual offerings, from information sessions to tours and student panels. In addition, there are extensive information available through social media, such as YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. Guidebooks and online sites offer additional sources for information about campus offerings and culture. You can look on a college's website to see the types of offerings that the Disability or Accessibility Service Office will provide. However, once you have narrowed your list, I recommend calling or visiting the Office of Disability or Accessibility Services to learn more specifically what a school will offer. It's okay to ask about the level of services provided, how services are accessed, and if a fee is required or not, and who is providing the services. In summary, this is your student's journey. They need to have the loudest voice in this process. There's no one perfect college. There are always trade-offs, whether it be location, services, or even cost. List building is an iterative process. As your student learns more, they'll be more discerning in their considerations. The college list should offer a range of opportunities. It is hard to tell who your student will be in May or even August. The services a college provides and how it provides them are important, but it's not the only or even necessarily the most important consideration. Great support without access to the right curriculum or community may not be a winner. Community colleges may be a good option for some, especially those who may need to start closer to home or with a reduced course load. And finally, it's important to recognize that college is just another part of your student's journey. There may be bumps along the way, there may be zigs and there may be zags, but that's okay.
Thank you, Helen. I think I'm going to jump in next. Now that you've learned a little bit about what your options may look like, I think sometimes the scarier part is getting ready for that big leap ahead. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how do you work on transitional skills, no matter the institution that you're going to. Really quickly, again, you're going to hear from Landmark. Helen talked about the colleges for students who learn differently. We are Beacon, we're outside of Orlando, Florida, 525 students, been around for a little bit. I'm here really because I'm the dean of the Center for College Readiness. And over the past 8 years, we've developed about 7 different college readiness programs that has worked with students going to colleges all over the United States. And what I've done with that data is I've looked at what are some of the holes and some of the barriers that impede post-secondary success. Our goal is to increase retention no matter where you go. And what I found is that a lot of people will tell you in order to get ready for college, the student needs to just self-advocate. And if you walk away with anything from this, that is not good enough. That is not as easy as it might sound. So what we've done here at Beacon and what I've been working on over the past 3 years is a new model to help you focus on what we call a healthier adjustment. I want you to think about a time in your life where you've had some significant change happen. New job, divorce, getting married, you moved. and think about what happened to you internally and externally as you went through that change. I remember moving to from Connecticut to Florida. I was asked to come to Beacon College, and I thought for a month I was getting fired for no reason. Just the thought of change was really overwhelming. And what we end up seeing in the clinical world is that that is part of what we call an adjustment. And college is one of the first major adjustments of an adolescence or an emerging adulthood life. And what we've done here is we've looked at 4 stages to get you ready for what we call a healthier adjustment, where we have decreased anxiety, it's not gone, but it's decreased stress or depressive episodes, decrease risky behaviors. And so what I want to go through is in each of these steps, how can you prepare for that adjustment for life after high school, whether it's a 4-year college, a 2-year college, or a transition program. And why we really focus on the adjustment is largely because this group of young adults have been immersed in an educational system for about 13 to 15 years. And then all of a sudden, you are asked to leave what is known and comfortable and go to a foreign environment with all these new social rules, these new expectations. And it's almost like you're supposed to know how to speak a foreign language without ever hearing it. And every single college will do it differently. So it's at like 4,000 different foreign languages. And as the student is transitioning, they're automatically going through this internal response to that adjustment. And unfortunately, students who have learning disabilities tend to have what we call poor self-monitoring skills. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. It's that essential executive functioning skill that tells you something is not going right now, and I need to do something about it. Unfortunately, because they can't self-monitor, all of a sudden something occurs and a setback ensues. And unlike secondary education under IDEA, in college, a college is not going to respond until the behavior, what we call manifests, meaning they either failed a class, they broke a rule, or it's time to have an exit. And unfortunately, what that means is that that student never works on that core area, that core skill that started that whole cycle. And what we then see are these students transitioning to different universities and colleges, which is why the transfer rate is so high. So our job then is to figure out what might cause the biggest issue around their adjustment and how can you start working on it now, knowing that in about 10 months, students will be transitioning to colleges all across the United States. And where it starts with is the idea around knowing yourself. When I started working in special education 20 years ago, I had a boss that told me, if a student doesn't know themselves, you're wasting your time. And I said, no, there's no way. I will break through. I am a young teacher. They'll love it. And in reality, he was right. A student is not going to work on executive functioning skills unless they know why they have to work on executive functioning skills. They're not going to clean their room, unfortunately, unless they know why they have to clean their room. So before we can even worry about college, we have to build student and parent awareness around current educational programming. More and more students are not aware of what their current supports are, whether that's structured like counseling or social coaching, and unstructured supports, those great teachers that might modify a classroom because they know that student well. With that, most students then are not able to tell us what their accommodations and modifications are. So if we think about what Helen just spoke about, which is that shift in registering for disability services, for example, if you don't know what your current accommodations are, you're not going to know what to ask for in the future. The first thing you actually have to do in a disability office is talk about what we say is your functional limitation. Fancy word for saying, why do I need an accommodation? But when we did a study recently, we found out of 100 students with learning disabilities, only 3 of them knew their accommodations. So they're being set up to not be able to appropriately get their needs met. That leads them to not understanding what their current services are and bridging that gap to where they're going next. And the more we build that awareness, the more we're going to start practicing having students verbalize their needs, understand their disability, and recognize what services and supports they're going to require no matter where they go. And when I talk about profile, I'm not saying what your learning style is. That's really important. I always say to people, it's wonderful if your child knows how best they learn, but a faculty member is not going to care. They're going to teach however they're going to want to teach. What you have to learn is what are the services, the tools, and the strategies that are currently working for you that's going to get you ready for what's happening next. From there, all around awareness, then we're going to start working on understanding college expectations. Helen just did a great job about it, and you're going to hear from Sandra and Sharon soon about the different options when you get to a campus. But if you don't understand things like FERPA, general education policies, satisfactory academic progress, you're not going to be able to make the contextual leap from one environment to the other. So you have to build awareness of your current environment, build awareness of your secondary environment, and then figure out what that gap is going to be. This is a lot of work, and this is why you have a great team of people probably that could help you through this part. But you got to start by knowing yourself. Once you increase that self-awareness, then you can start working on some of the fun skills like executive functioning. I'm like a dork, and I'm probably the only one who thinks executive functioning is a lot of fast. So executive functioning is really all of those life skills necessary to support students or people in day-to-day activities. Things like initiating tasks, recognizing our impulses. I'm hearing that I need to slow down for the interpreter. My apologies. Very excited. So executive functioning. So we're talking about initiation, organization, time management. We're looking at things like recognizing our impulses. Over time in special education, unfortunately, students have relied more on adults and more on technology to implement our executive functioning skills. I know when I went to school, we had planners, calendars, folders. We didn't have learning management systems like Canvas or Google Classroom to do everything for us. And so what has happened is students have started to rely so much on school-based technology that when they leave, they're not familiar or they've not internalized enough of the skills to adjust to the next environment. So when they go to college and they have a new professor using Blackboard or Canvas, and 4 professors are doing it differently, the student has not yet developed their own system to manage their academic life. So things like, can a student record and document all of their assignments? Can they track their work completion and their grades? Are they aware of all of the simultaneous demands being placed on them? Can they identify urgent situations that warrant immediate interventions or problem-solving strategies? Do they know how to initiate a task without a structured environment? A lot of students that have an IEP might be in structured study hall. While that's fine, that's not going to carry you over to college. So once you kind of know yourself, the next series of skills is understanding how much am I relying on people and technology to live my daily life. Once you develop those compensatory strategies, you're going to be much more functional in a college environment. And that's going to allow for you to problem solve. We have to recognize that students with learning disabilities have a lot of co-occurring mental health concerns. Anxiety, depression, maybe things that are undiagnosed, very common. We have to start evaluating our students' ability to manage setbacks in an unfamiliar environment. We have to look at, have they been able to problem solve without the safety net of a school? Have they failed before? One of the big things to start paying attention to is, have they had the same support system all in while they're in school? Because if they've had the same person, if they have the same Sandra for 5 years, what happens when there's no more Sandra? That's a really big shift for them. And then can they predict how to problem solve given common barriers that they face? And that's really important because college is what we call siloed. Special education's pretty wonderful. There's a lot of people that are there to support you, and typically you have one central person to ask help from. When you go to college, you're going to have to go to about 10 different offices to get your needs met, and that could be really defeating. So if students don't know their needs and they don't understand the college system, their ability to problem solve decreases. And every time they hit a setback, their willingness to continue to engage is limited. So as you're starting to explore colleges, I recommend going to colleges and seeing what different offices there are, researching their mission, their objectives, their hours, their scope and depth of services. That is a great way to start comparing and contrasting the services from high school to college. All in while, I would recommend families start working on what we call distress tolerance skills. Life's pretty tough, right? And things happen, and you can't avoid discomfort when you're in college because there are expectations. So working with students on identifying their emotional triggers. What gets them upset? What gets them anxious? What prevents them from wanting to engage? Can they connect their thoughts and feelings to their behaviors? That is a great skill to start establishing now. Do they know the appropriate resources? Sometimes going to your math teacher to complain about your English class is not appropriate. Can they still sit in a session and be uncomfortable and meet the expectations? What I would recommend everybody doing, especially given the landscape of mental health services, is having a mental health support plan prior to your departure. Things like a psychiatric plan, a pharmaceutical plan. What is your counseling plan going to be? Most likely you will need to seek external counseling due to the limitations on campus. Do you understand how to create patient portal online? Can you fill out paperwork at a doctor's office? It is very critical that students now practice those independent mental health skills so that they're prepared for independence. And that will make self-advocacy a little easier. Remember when I told you that self-advocacy is much bigger than just one skill. Self-advocacy is a process. You have to know that something is going on. You have to be able to explain what skills you need help with. You can't just say, I need help with math. You have to be able to be very explicit about where you're struggling. You need to develop a sequence plan so that you know where to go and when. So you need to know who your resources are. You need to practice appropriate social communication, managing your emotions when setbacks happen and your first plan doesn't work. And then come up with 2 or 3 or sometimes 4 alternative solutions if that office might not be open. These are all skills that I would encourage you to incorporate in transition planning when you're looking at your IEP. Talk to your special ed case manager about where is my student in this process and what skill can I start working on? Because if we could start working on these stages earlier, things like authentic awareness, executive functioning, managing setbacks, and self-advocating, the college process and the adjustment will be easier. And with that, I'm going to put my contact up. Oh, no, I'm not. My contact, if you have any questions, you can always just reach out to me at beaconcollege.edu/Alex, and happy to walk through some more individual circumstances. But now it's time to figure out what happens when you go to college. I'm going to turn it over to 2 great colleagues out in California, Sandra and Sharon.
Thank you, Alex. My name is Sandra Fischler, and I am the director of the Landmark College Success Center located in San Mateo, California. And I have with me Sharon Farrell, who is an assistant director with our Landmark College admissions team. And as Alex mentioned, we are one of 2 great colleges in the US that provide support and education to students with learning differences. So I want to thank Alex for passing the baton, and Alyssa, of course, for organizing the event, and the Parents Helping Parents community for having us here today. So Sharon and I, as the lead up has been, are here to share more about the college supports that you'll find when you arrive as a neurodiverse student to a campus. And again, as Helen prepared everyone to find the right fit, and Alex shared so well how to best prepare for it, we're again here to share those supports with you. Again, my name is Sandra Fischler, and I have with me Sharon. So welcome everyone today. Again, we're here to share those college supports with you. Sharon?
Thank you, Sandra, and thank you, everyone. My name is Sharon Farrell. I'm the Assistant Director of West Coast Admissions for Landmark College. I'm based in the Bay Area. Delighted to be here. So I wanted to mention a couple of things. So many neurodiverse students don't utilize the resources at their college. For instance, in high school, 94% of students with a learning difference receive some form of assistance, but in college, approximately only 25% of these students utilize the resources available to them. So think about that. That's an interesting number. So for students with learning differences, the path begins really with self-knowledge. Start by knowing your learning difference. Ask yourself questions. Ask yourself, what environment do I learn best in?
Excuse me, Sharon?
Yes.
Sharon, I apologize for interrupting, but do we know that we're not sharing screen right now?
Oh. No, I did not. Thank you for letting me know that.
No worries. I chatted, but so that will maybe help us.
I am so sorry. Thank you for
worries.
sharing that.
I'm glad it's not only me.
Is everyone able to see my screen now?
There we go. Thank
Yep.
you.
Absolutely.
And then the next, there you go. Beautiful. Thank you, Sandra.
Apologies.
Again, we might as well reiterate the path begins with self-knowledge, and how important it is to know yourself better while you're in college, and to assess your own preferences. Like I said, campus size. Are we looking for a large campus, a small campus? What location is best for you? Class size, small or big? Think about faculty to student ratios. How will you best find your pathway to learning with all of these questions? Utilize programs such as one-on-one coaching to better understand your LD. Strengthen your ability to articulate your learning difference. This is highly important. And discuss supports you'll need in college. Go to the Disability Services office and talk with admissions counselors about your accommodations. Which brings us to the importance of disclosure. So interesting, less than 5% of students disclose their specific learning difference when they get to college. One study found that undergraduates who waited until after their first year of college to request accommodations were 3.5 times more likely to graduate within 6 years. And this is according to the National Center for Learning Disabilities. And it's important to remember that students do not outgrow their learning difference. The benefits of disclosure are many. For example, early disclosure of your learning difference provides the best opportunity to evaluate the college's services that they're offering. And it helps to more easily evaluate the attitude of the school toward learning differences. And it helps to determine the level of access to services that you'll have at that particular college to ensure your success. And of course, it's an opportunity to sharpen your self-advocacy skills that will certainly be needed in college.
This is just a reminder. Helen went over this already, but just as a reminder to everyone, ADA provides the guiding light for interaction on a college campus. So this is disability rights or civil rights. Back in 1990, the ADA law was put into, was ratified, and people with disabilities found their support in areas of public life. The Department of Justice enforces the ADA, and the reason we wanted to bring this up here is this is relevant as you consider supports when you enter into college and the levels of support that you'll find once you get there. So again, the ADA is a guiding light for the supports you'll find at college.
Thank you, Sandra. And thank you, Helen, for touching on this as well. It's so important. And related to the ADA, there are various levels of support in college. So the first level is ADA compliant. This meets the ADA basic requirements. And a good example of this level is a community college. There's no cost for the compliance. There's a small number of staff and academic centers for writing and math. There's peer-based tutoring for introductory classes, and students must absolutely advocate for services at this level. The next level is ADA Compliant Plus. And this goes beyond the ADA basic requirements. And a good example of this is the LINK program at Cal State East Bay. Again, no cost, but there's a better student to staff ratio. There's peer-based or professional academic coaching. And again, students must advocate for their services at this level. The next level is structured programs. And these are individualized services. And a good example of this is a private college, such as Arizona State University and their SALT program. These are fee-based programs, and they include comprehensive academic tutoring and skill building support. They include a full-time specialized staff, and programs ensure services, so the student is not as required to self-advocate, although that's always important. But the staff will take care of the services at this level. And then there's the next level, which are colleges specifically designed for students with learning differences. This includes a full-time support staff. This is comprehensive academic, social pragmatic, and executive function support. This may not include additional fees. This offers 2-year and 4-year degrees. And examples of these colleges is Beacon and Landmark College in Vermont.
So let's focus more on those supports. We've heard from Sharon that with disclosure comes access. So keep that in mind. So there may be LD accommodations, and they vary from college to college. You've heard that from all three of us. So there may be some coaching that's offered. There may be mentoring programs, possibly tutoring, or a tech-specific lab. Let's not forget the universal supports that you'll also find on college campuses. So we're going to explore a bit about that now. Again, to note, campus supports vary from college to college, so keep this in mind. But most campuses have an academic advising center, and they'll help with course selection. They may help you identify how many more credits you need to achieve a degree. There may not be an opportunity to utilize their services for course withdrawals or dropping a course. They may also have some one-on-one advising that could be helpful. They generally advertise this on their websites, and you're able to sign up for a time to meet with your advisor. There's also academic support to keep in mind. There may be some peer students that would provide some subject matter tutoring. Some faculties from time to time will provide subject matter support as well. most campuses, nearly all, have a writing center. Now, this center will not write the paper for the student, but they will certainly help with the structure of that paper. And as Alex confirmed before, executive functioning and executive function coaching is a feature that you'll find at Landmark College as well. And this is a piece to our academic support. There's athletic departments. A lot of folks don't look at this as a support, but it can be. In those athletic and recreation departments, there's an opportunity for intramural sports. And this, again, is a chance for students to meet other students that have a like interest in a particular sport. It may or may not be competitive, but again, it's an opportunity to get out, get some movement, and possibly meet other students. Then, of course, many have counseling centers. There might be an opportunity for group counseling or individual counseling. And what I have found most helpful about counseling centers on campus is they not only support those on they not only are aware of the supports on campus, but many can be a resource for outside services as well that are off campus. Career readiness services, and this is called many different names. It could be the Career Center, or again, career services might be a name as well. They may help find internships for students. They may also help identify apprenticeships for individuals that may have a paid opportunity to earn while they learn. There may be some resume support, as well as role play for interviews to help individuals prepare as they move on beyond college. Some additional supports may include a diversity, equity, and inclusion center. And this is a department that supports students of color, LGBTQ plus students, first generation students, first generation to college, students with disabilities, of course, may find support there as well. I think what's most important about the diversity, equity, and inclusion centers that are on most campuses is the fact that they provide a community, and they are the bridge from that community to the larger student population on campus. Financial aid is not considered a support in many cases. However, keep in mind that these individuals have a great deal of expertise in how to navigate payment for college. So they can be a resource and a support. The food and dining hall. Again, most folks look at this as an opportunity to just satisfy a need for food each day. However, they may be a place to find a dietary needs support, as well as support for food allergies that may be present in a student. Health and wellness centers can be a great support to students in that they may have underpriced prescriptions or they may even have underpriced over-the-counter medications that students may need from time to time while they're on campus. And then the next one is an international students office. And this really depends on the size of your campus. But if you have an international students office and you are interested in meeting students from other countries, this could be a great place to identify support as well. So let's keep in mind, we need to circle back to the disability support office, but you know, that may be known by some other name. So keep this in mind. Disability support offices may be called the Disability Support Services Office. They may be called the Accessibility Resources Office. They may be called the Office of Student Accessibility. So all these different names could be present. But if you are interested in finding out what that office name is on the campus you're interested in, under the search bar on your campus website, type in disability, and that's where you'll be able to find what the name is for your particular school. Let's deep dive a bit more in what that Office of Disability or Accessibility may offer in supports. So again, these vary from campus to campus, and Sharon shared the different levels of support that you'll find once you do choose a campus. But again, individuals may find access learning disabilities. They may be able to access particular dorms that may support a physical disability. There may be some adaptive equipment that could be utilized, or software payment that will support usage by a student that needs that. Remote learning or even lab assistance may be something to keep in mind. What's very common in many college campuses is offering extra time on exams. Something that may be interesting or needed by you as the student is a quiet space to take those exams. So be sure and ask when you get to the campus if that's a possibility, if you believe you need that. That's all part of that self-awareness and knowing how best to bridge the gap of your learning disability and the supports you find. Residence life, another place to find some support is if you need to switch roommates or just identify a housing option, they would be there to support that. And then Office of Student Activities. This is a great place to find a community if you're interested in joining a club or even identify or participate in offsite activities. As was mentioned by Alex earlier, so the Landmark campus, again, being designed strictly for students with learning differences, we have a social pragmatic support program, and it's on the campus, and we also offer it through the Success Center. And we offer it through peers. It's a program for the education and enrichment of relational skills. It's a set of workshops that comes along with individual social coaching and social support activities. And again, this may vary from campus to campus, but it's certainly something to consider if you are interested in that and identifying that. And then there's also, there's generally an office for Title IX in case any incidents need to be reported. So I've shared all these supports that might be and vary from campus to campus. So there may be disability or learning difference specific supports or accommodations that you'll find. There's universal supports that we want to make sure individuals are accessing those as well as students. We want to make sure you consider those. But there's another thing to consider, and that's an outside support, a team support, if you will. And this is designed for students, even though they have, again, all these supports on campus, they may need more of a scaffolded support team. And this team would be of professionals providing handrails for students working on their support in a collaborative environment. It could include an executive function coach. And yes, the Success Center offers that, but there are many executive function coaches out there. We would encourage an individual, if they're looking at the team approach, to find the one that suits them. Another professional that may be part of this would be a life coach. And this could be an individual that could help a student plan for the present as well as for the future. Identifying an independent living trainer might be a good addition to the team. This would be an individual that would help with learning how to cook or possibly learning how to clean. I know that's a hard one to think that a student's going to consider cleaning, but that could be a skill that needs to be worked on a bit. What has also been an effective or found to be an effective teammate is a peer mentor. And this can be an individual that is a bridge between the campus and help facilitate and for the new student, help them navigate the different services on campus in more of a hands-on role. And then the other piece to consider is maintaining perhaps a therapist from home, keeping them as part of the team approach, but maybe adding an additional piece or an additional therapist if that's what's needed. So all to keep in mind, there's supports on campus, and there's also an outside team approach that's been found very effective by many families as they send their student off to college.
Thank you, Sandra. So while attending college, we highly recommend to always reevaluate. So determine if your accommodations are actually working for you. And if not, self-advocate. Consider your needs and ask for what you need. And in doing so, you strengthen your ability to articulate your needs and your LD, and always reevaluate as you go further into your college career, your accommodations and your supports. If you're not getting what you need, we highly recommend to always take action. Yay for action.
Thank you all for having us.